up next.
Welcome into T4G Sports. Today we're going to be diving into a major issue with the NFL draft that keeps certain teams stuck in a frustrating cycle. Now, before we get started, you guys already know what to do. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, click the notification bell, and follow us on X as well. And make sure to leave your thoughts and opinions down below. Let's jump into it. So for this video, we're going to have USA Today up, and they have a bunch of websites giving their opinion on who should get drafted first, you know, in their mock drafts and what have you. So the first part that we want to talk about is ownership. Now, we believe that you can take owners and put them into basically two different categories. The first one being the hands-off owner who loves football but treats it as an investment. Then you got the second owner who's the hands-on owner who can confuse financial success with football expertise. So look at the teams consistently in the top 10 draft picks, right? You have Tennessee, you got Cleveland, you got the Giants, Patriots, you got Jaguars, Raiders, Jets, Carolina, Saints, Chicago. Okay, majority of these teams that you see up here in the top 10, it's not a shock that they're in the top 10. If I were to tell you, like, hey, in the beginning of the year, Cleveland's going to have a top 10 pick in the draft, or the Giants will, or even the Patriots, or the Jaguars, the Raiders, Jets, Carolina, would any one of you guys be shocked by that? No. No, most people would be like, yeah, we've seen this before. We've seen this song and dance because we've seen this for like 500 years. These teams keep going back to having the same top 10 picks over and over and over again. And it's just not a shock. And you got to look at it and say, well, what's the issue? Obviously, ownership is at the very top. There's no question about it. But what is the main issue that we're dealing with here when it comes to these teams? And it's philosophy. So let's talk about just kind of the ownership here and what we've been seeing. If you look at Tennessee, for example, they fired their GM after just 2 years. Do I think that Rand Carthon was a great GM? No. But at the end of the day, if you fired him after 2 years, then that's on the ownership. Then that's on the president. That's on the people making the decisions because you clearly picked a wrong guy. If you're a GM and you've cycled through multiple head coaches and the owner comes to you and says, well, why have we gone through these head coaches? And you say, well, they're not good. Well, then you're not good because you're the one hiring them. You're the one making these decisions. You're the one leading the ship on where we go, and clearly you're not doing the right stuff. So I got a controversial take for you guys. These teams in the top 10 should trade away their draft picks. They should trade them away for draft capital. Number one, you get more picks in return. It's obvious as day. Two, if you're truly good at scouting, you can find talent throughout the draft. Bills did it. There's plenty of teams that did it. Ravens, Patriots did it for like 500 years. You can find success stories time and time again with these really good franchises who are doing that. And three, which is the biggest of them all, one player rarely, and I mean rarely, ever fixes a broken franchise. So let's just talk about some of the success stories that we're looking at here. The Buffalo Bills didn't just draft Josh Allen, they built a complete team around him. Patrick Mahomes landed on the Chiefs with Andy Reid. He made Alex Smith look good. If Patrick Mahomes went on the Chicago Bears, do you think he'd still be successful? I don't think so. Teams like the Steelers and Seahawks and even the Vikings find success without top picks. You look at the Seahawks, you had Geno Smith as your quarterback. How many people were beating down Geno Smith's door to say, hey, we want Geno Smith at all costs? No one. No one was. Russell Wilson, the Broncos traded an arm and a leg for him, and then they threw him away, and the Steelers were like, yeah, we'll pick him up, and the Steelers are now sitting at a worse draft pick than the Denver Broncos are, which means that they statistically did better with a guy that they traded the house for. Then they also got Justin Fields, who the Chicago Bears threw away because apparently he was the issue. They go and draft another quarterback, and what happened? Where are they at now? Oh, you're 10th. Okay, Caleb Williams really worked out well for you. Okay, time and time again, you keep seeing the same thing. Minnesota Vikings, who's their quarterback? Would that be Sam Darnold? Yeah, Sam Darnold. How many people liked Sam Darnold and his talent a year ago? No one. He was abysmal, right? He's a backup. He was an absolute bust. Well, is he a bust, or just these other franchises, are they just not very good? Because clearly the Minnesota Vikings are liking him quite a bit. So this entire thing drives me nuts, because what are you going to see? You're going to see the definition of insanity, and you're going to see people act shocked. Drafting Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders is great. These players, Travis Hunter, they're all great players, right? Abdul Carter out of Penn State, great players, fantastic. Will Campbell, fantastic player. Here's the problem, though. Look at all of these top players. Cam Ward, Did Cam Ward take his team in college, by the way, and win the ACC championship and take his team to a playoff and be in contention to win a natty? No. Why didn't he? Oh, because their defense was terrible at Miami. And he couldn't play everywhere. Ah, gotcha. Okay. So if he couldn't do it for a college team, what makes you think he's going to do it for an NFL team? It just doesn't make any sense. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter were both on the same team in college and could not win the Big 12 for CU. I'm not saying they were bad. I'm not saying they weren't even successful, but I'm saying they weren't successful enough in college to say, well, hey, they were so successful in college that we believe just one of them will change our NFL franchise. Makes no sense to me. If two of them together couldn't even take their team to a Big 12 championship and win it to a playoff and even be in contention with the natty, then what makes you think one of them is going to change your NFL team? This is the pros. It just doesn't make any sense. Abdul Carter is an absolute monster. But if you look at it and say, well, is he going to change these teams' organization? Well, let's think about it. Myles Garrett, does he ring a bell? Oh, where are the Browns at? Oh, they're second. Okay, so even Myles Garrett by himself couldn't do that because it's a team sport, obviously, right? So if Myles Garrett couldn't do it, then what makes you think Abdul Carter's going to do it? I just don't understand this philosophy. I really don't. Why don't you just do what the other guys do who are successful? You ever tried to do that? You ever tried to stop doing what you've been doing that's made you unsuccessful? Because you could have the first round pick every year for 10 years, right? First overall pick. It's not going to matter. There's going to be a lot of those guys that, for one, they're going to retire after, that's a long time. They're going to retire. Contract negotiations don't always go through. You're going to have to get rid of them. It just doesn't make any sense. And a lot of these teams, too, they don't even trade their guys. They'll cut these guys. You look at the Houston Texans, they've done it plenty of times. D-Hop, the other edge rusher, too, on the opposite side is J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney. You see the same thing over and over and over again, and they're like shocked that there's like, wow, it's the same result over and over and over. Shocker. So to me, if you are a fan of one of these teams, you need to hit X. You need to be aggressive at guys. Trade away our picks. Let's trade away our first round pick. Let's not try to draft our way in these top 10 picks, draft our way out of this. Because these other teams don't get top 10 picks and they do fine. How is that? Just take a page out of their book. It just doesn't make any sense. And I don't hear enough people talking about this. I don't hear anyone talking about this, actually. And it drives me nuts. It absolutely drives me nuts. So, in my opinion, trade away these picks. Any of these teams that trade away their picks, I'm going to applaud them because you're building up that draft capital. You can use that in so many different areas. You can use that to trade for existing players who are already good, who even may have good contracts in place. You can draft more players and rely on true scouting if you're actually good at that. If you're not good at that, if I'm an owner and I'm saying, hey, we're going to trade away this pick, guys, I want to give you more picks and use your scouting expertise to get us out of this. And if they mess that up and they don't draft good players, well, then you know where the problem is. It's not where your draft pick is. It's who's making the draft pick, or it's who's actually drafting these players with those picks, right? It's pretty simple. So that's our opinion on this. It's driving us nuts. Let us know what you guys think down below.